Welcome to episode 11 of Basics and Beyond, the podcast. So great to have you here today. We are talking all about that wonderful thing, your cup of joe in the morning. How many of you enjoy a nice cup of coffee or two after you wake up in the morning to get your day started? Today, we're going to talk about the benefits of coffee and some things to think about when you're choosing your coffee in terms of quality, in terms of quantity, timing of day. So we're going to talk about the benefits. We're going to talk about ways that coffee can inhibit you from reaching your goals. But mainly, guess what? Coffee, not good or bad. You just need to make sure you're doing it the way that works for you. Come on in. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you here today. Welcome to episode 11 of Basics and Beyond, the podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you today about coffee. Yes, coffee. It's kind of a weird thing for me to talk about in particular because I'm not a huge fan of coffee, I have to tell you. Years ago, I don't know, maybe 20-ish years ago or something, I got hooked on coffee. Now, I say hooked on very lightly because I wasn't really addicted to it or anything like that. Although I did enjoy grabbing a cup of coffee on my way to work. I was a teacher at the time. It was a great little pick-me-up. And what I would do is I would stop at this gas station, convenience store, because back then when I was going to work, there wasn't a Starbucks around. And I would grab a coffee. I would fill up one of those, I think it was either 20 or 24 ounces. I'd fill it up with coffee. And then, because truth be told, I don't like the taste of coffee, I would grab the vanilla creamer. And then coffee became my joy. I would put a tremendous amount of vanilla creamer in my coffee. I would say it wasn't really coffee flavored so much anymore. So it was more like I really liked the vanilla creamer and I kind of with a side of coffee. That was pretty much how it was. And it was fantastic. I loved it. And then, when Starbucks became really popular and I had moved, I would go to Starbucks every Friday on my way to work, and I would get myself a really fun chai tea latte, which really isn't a lot of coffee either. And it was a vanilla chai tea latte. So it was a lot of fat, a lot of flavor, and a little bit of coffee. And that's how I do coffee. So for me to talk about coffee today is a really interesting thing. However, recently, probably in the last couple of years, I have started doing coffee every morning. My husband and I make a pot of coffee. And most days when it's nice and when we can, or me in particular, we take the dog and we go out and walk the dog with our coffee. And as a functional health coach and nutrition coach and all those things, I often wonder, because you hear a variety of things out there about how coffee's bad for you and you shouldn't drink it. And then people say it's good for you and you should drink it. And there's so many different things out there. It is hard to know. It's really hard to know. And I'll tell you, even though I'm a functional health and nutrition coach, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be. I don't want to be. Okay, maybe I want to be, but I'm not, right? I'm kind of in the same space that you are. I hear the same things that you do. I just run things through a different strainer. I have maybe a little more information, a little more in-depth education. But that's why I bring these things to you, right? Because there's some interesting information out there about coffee. And there's been some research in the past bit here around coffee and its benefits. Yes, benefits. And they're a little different probably than you think, because there are benefits to coffee that we know, obviously, right? It's a great wake me up with the caffeine. Coffee can definitely enhance your energy. It can enhance your mood, particularly if you really enjoy your coffee and it's kind of a nice treat. That definitely can improve your mood. However, there really are some other health benefits that have come through in latest research that we need to know about. Okay. So let's talk about the benefits, and then we're going to talk a little bit about types of coffee and what we need to look for in terms of finding the healthiest version of coffee, if that is something that you want to do. So when it comes to the health benefits of coffee, we talked about improving your mood, right? That's really important. It can definitely improve your mood, reduce your risk of depression. So how does that work? Well, caffeine actually increases the production of your neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and those obviously help with mood. They also help with mental health. Think serotonin. We always talk about SSRIs, right? Serotonin reuptake and those kinds of things, right? Now I can't even come up with the words, but having dopamine, having serotonin, having a little bit of adrenaline, right? Those things all improve our mood, which of course improves our mental health. Also, interestingly enough, those things can improve our energy levels. So if our adrenaline is higher, we're going to have more energy. If our mood is better, we'll probably have more energy and motivation throughout the day. And of course, like we just talked about, that caffeine piece always gives us a little bit of energy, right? Okay, so those are the two things that we probably all know about, right? Good. We'll put those to bed. Next, let's talk about antioxidants. I am sure you maybe have heard briefly somewhere in passing that coffee does have antioxidants in it. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants reduce oxidative stress, antioxidants reduce oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. What is oxidative stress? Oxidative stress is those, let me see if I can say this in the right way that will make sense. Oxidative stress on your body is pretty much what it helps cause illness, right? It creates the space in your body where things just aren't working correctly. Oxidation breaks things down, right? So oxidative stress is going to break down your body. It also causes inflammation. We don't want that. We want to give our body antioxidants. We usually talk about antioxidants when we're talking about vegetables and fruits and things like that. Coffee is also a good source of antioxidants. Who knew? That's nice. That's helpful, right? Along with that, and partially because of that, it helps reduce the risk of certain diseases for us. Yeah, coffee can do that. So think about it. So one of them is type 2 diabetes. Coffee contains compounds that actually help improve your insulin sensitivity. So what we know is type 2 diabetes is an insulin insensitivity. So when you have type 2 diabetes, for whatever reason, and there are multiple reasons it can happen, your insulin is not sensitive enough to be able to bring that glucose, grab onto the glucose, bring that glucose into your organs, your muscles, wherever your body needs that glucose for energy. So you end up having glucose roaming about this is like the real simple terms, the glucose roams throughout your bloodstream. You are not very insulin sensitive. Things happen where you gain fat, and there's just lots of downstream effects of having insulin insensitivity. Coffee actually helps to improve your insulin sensitivity, which all of us want, right? Which means it helps that glucose metabolism. So you don't have all of that glucose roaming aimlessly around in your body, causing issues. Your body is performing better. The insulin is grabbing onto that glucose, bringing it to the areas where you need that energy. And that is going to keep you healthier. Not only does it make it so that it reduces type 2 diabetes in you, but it also makes your body function better overall. That's kind of nice, right? Another thing, when we're talking about kind of reducing those disease factors, is it helps with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. How does it do that? Well, coffee has neuroprotective properties. So what does that mean? Neuroprotective, brain, neuro. So coffee has properties that help protect your brain from degeneration. it can reduce the risk of those diseases because it helps keep your brain healthy. And also, these are the last ones we'll talk about in terms of diseases, reduces caffeine. I always want to say caffeine because that's how I associate coffee, right? Everyone says coffee, caffeine. Coffee in particular, there are studies that have shown that it reduces the risk of liver cancer, probably because it helps with metabolism, colorectal cancer, and breast cancers. They have seen a reduced risk of those cancers in coffee drinkers in some studies. So there are physical benefits, there are physiologic benefits to drinking coffee. Who knew? Not only that, we just talked about how it helps with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, right? It may reduce the risk of those diseases forming in you because of the neuroprotective properties of coffee. Neuroprotective, we just talked about, that's the brain. It also, of course, then would improve or enhance your cognitive function. So it improves your brain function. It improves your alertness. It improves your concentration. And what we figured out, right, is what the studies have shown is it's probably due to the caffeine. Caffeine, obviously, in coffee is a stimulant, and it promotes increased brain activity. So if we have increased brain activity, we're probably going to we're going to function better cognitively. We're going to be more alert. We're going to be able to concentrate better, and we'll experience less fatigue. Keeping that in mind, though, because of those things, you need to be careful about the timing of your coffee during the day. Okay, but we'll talk about that. Another physiologic thing that can happen with coffee, very important, it is actually really good for heart health. They have found that a moderate amount of coffee consumption does show a reduced risk of heart disease because coffee has anti-inflammatory properties. We already talked about that. So what it does is it can improve also that endothelial function, which is, those are the cells in your heart. So it can help improve how your heart as an organ, just at the base level, that cellular level, can regenerate and work better and not degenerate. That's amazing. So there's lots of physiological benefits to caffeine consumption. Yeah, a lot. Neurologic benefits, cardiovascular benefits, lowering type 2 diabetes risk, Alzheimer's, other cancers. It improves our mood. We have improved energy. Coffee can also improve our performance. What does that mean? Well, caffeine actually, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. When we think about our physical performance, we want to make sure that we have energy, which we've talked about. We want to make sure that we are able to do the things that we want to do, and we want to perform well. Well, caffeine actually enhances your physical performance by increasing your adrenaline levels. We talked about adrenaline briefly, right? It increases your adrenaline levels, which makes you more alert, gives you more energy. And at the same time, though, it releases fatty acids from your fat tissues. What? Yeah. Coffee. The caffeine in coffee releases fatty acids from your fat tissues, which gives you some energy, like gives you quick, grab that energy and go to do your performance, but also it can improve your body composition. Why? Well, because it releases those fatty acids, correct? Yes. But all the other things we already talked about, it improves your energy. It improves your motivation to train. So you need energy to train, you need motivation to train. It, like we said, can help you lose fat. It can help you gain muscle because you're training. It gives you that little boost of energy, motivation, mood to get out there and do the things. And at the same time, it helps release those fatty acids from your fat cells. I think that sounds pretty great. Really pretty great. However, now here are the downsides. If you are having coffee like I did, where it was mostly high fat, mostly high fat creamer, you're getting a lot of fat in there. And you kind of have to take that into consideration when you're thinking about your macro breakdown and your caloric intake, particularly if you're looking for body composition changes. If most of your coffee is high fat creamer, that's a lot of calories. On the other side, people would say, hey, Laura, well, then I'm just going to drink fat-free. Like I'll do fat-free creamer. Fat-free creamer takes the fat out and replaces it with sugar. So now you're going to get a whole bunch of sugar, more calories in your coffee. So you have to be very careful and very cognizant about what you're putting into that coffee, because most people aren't strictly black coffee drinkers, right? So be very careful about what you're putting into it. One way that I have found to add flavor to the coffee, to mitigate the amount of fat and sugar that's being put into my coffee, because I'm going for one or the other, because that coffee on its own for me doesn't taste great. So if I'm going to add something and I don't want to add a ton of calories and maybe get a little more benefit from my coffee, I add protein powder to my coffee. I have a little frother that I got from a friend. I put my protein powder in my coffee, stir it up, froth it up, stir, 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 stir. And now I have black coffee with a scoop of protein powder, and I can change my flavors whenever I want. And now I'm getting 20 to 25 grams of protein in my coffee, a minimal amount of fat and a minimal amount of carbs. And I'm getting my coffee. That helps with mood, and it helps, with those disease factors, and it helps with energy. It's a win-win. I think adding protein to coffee is fantastic. A couple of things to consider. We said we were going to talk about this. So benefits of coffee, you can find healthier versions of coffee, or coffee that can be better for you. So what does that mean? Well, choosing a high quality coffee can mitigate negative effects. What does that mean? Well, I'm sure you've heard that coffee can contain mold. If you drink enough coffee or drink it often enough, and it's a low quality coffee, and for some reason, either through production or transportation or storage of that coffee, it has gotten mold in it, you can develop a mold toxicity in your body, which means some level of mold is there, and you'll have a variety of symptoms. Okay. Sometimes when you have a lower quality coffee, you can experience digestive issues. So you want to kind of be you want to be discerning, I should say. I'll use that word, discerning, about the coffee that you choose to drink. So a couple of things to think about when you're choosing beans. If you're doing coffee beans, choose beans that are grown without synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. That's a good one to keep in mind. Single origin beans. Okay, so what that means is the beans come from a specific region known for high quality coffee. If you're doing beans, look for those two things, you'll be set. Okay. And a lot of people who do coffee beans are really particular about their coffee anyway. So that's something to keep in mind. Freshly roasted and ground beans also retain more of those nutritional benefits. And of course, when something is fresh, it always tastes better. Like the flavor is always better if it's fresher, for sure. When you are drinking coffee, we kind of alluded to this earlier, 3 to 4 cups a day max, to avoid like being super jittery, having sleep disturbances, like we talked about, digestive issues. If you have more than 3 to 4 cups, you may experience those things, and it may not be beneficial. Also, kind of in conjunction with that, is avoiding coffee late in the day. You'll see different research studies on this. Some say don't have coffee after 10 a.m., some say noon, some say 2. And here's the reason why. Every person is different. Every person is born with a certain sensitivity to caffeine. Some people can have caffeine later in the day and it doesn't affect them. Some people can't have caffeine at all because it affects them so drastically. So you know yourself the best. If you notice that you're having a lot more coffee and you're experiencing digestive issues or sleep issues, or being really, really anxious or jittery, you may want to back off the amount, or you may want to adjust the timing of day that you have your coffee so that you are experiencing as many of those health benefits and it's not becoming detrimental to your health, right? Because sleep is important. We all know that sleep is important. So having said all those things, there are, and I'm going to list this in the show notes, there are a few brands that are well known in terms of safety and purity. So what we talked about with original, like single source beans that they use, it's very fresh. They're very careful in their processing and their packaging of their coffee so that they don't, there's no mold, like they're tested for mold and things like that. So I'm going to list 7 different brands of coffee that are great for that. Does that mean they were the only ones? Absolutely not. But if you're looking to change it up a little bit and maybe you want to try a different kind of coffee, and you're looking maybe for a healthier version than what you normally get, there are 7 different brands that you may or may not want to try. So let me tell you, there's Bulletproof Coffee, Kion Coffee, Kion, Purity Coffee, makes sense, Caveman Coffee Company, Clean Coffee Company, Natural Force Clean Coffee, and Peak Performance Coffee. None of those coffee companies give me any money whatsoever, just so you know. However, they are well known to really make a commitment to producing good sourced, high quality, healthier versions of coffee. So keeping that in mind, if you are a coffee drinker, please know that it's not unhealthy and it's not super healthy. Like there is an in between. And that's usually kind of what happens, is that somewhere along the continuum is where we find what works for us in terms of something being healthier or not as healthy. Some things to keep in mind, like I said, when you are deciding if you're going to drink coffee or not drink coffee is, number 1, what are your goals? Number 2, what are you looking for from coffee? If you love the flavor of coffee and you're going to go straight black coffee, great. If you have goals of body composition, you might want to think about how much creamer and sugar you're putting in your coffee, particularly when you go out and have someone else make your coffee for you. Like I said, a great alternative is get your coffee and put some protein powder in it. It's fantastic. And you get protein and not all the other stuff. Look for a higher quality coffee so that you're not being exposed to mold or anything like that. That's kind of important. Remember, coffee isn't good or bad. Coffee is just coffee. And if it works for you and you love it, make sure you're having it early enough in the day so it doesn't affect your sleep. Make sure you're having enough so that you get the benefits that you want, but not too much so that you're all jittery and crazy and anxious. Okay? So always here to give you the information, the latest and greatest, maybe, information about things that come up occasionally in terms of, well, is that true or is that not true? So hopefully I busted some myths for you, gave you some information that is helpful. If you love your coffee, don't let people tell you you can't have it. Compare that to where your goals are, where you are, and where you want to get to, and then make some modifications. Coffee's not a bad thing. Coffee's just a thing. If you have questions, if you have ideas for content, please, please, please connect with me. Let me know. You can find all of my information. I'm on socials. I have a website. Just hit me up wherever you can find me. Let me know your questions. Let me know your thoughts on show topics. The reason I do this is so that I can help you understand the basics and the foundations of being healthy every single day, or healthier on that health journey. And also to take you a little bit beyond where you thought you could go. Thanks for joining today. click like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode.